Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're doing good this evening. Well, here it is. It's just the first week of October, but I'm already getting started on preparing my garden for next year. And so I've decided to do something that I've never done before. What I'm going to do is a no-till deep mulch method. And I've picked out a spot right here behind me that I'm going to try this. And after doing a lot of reading and I even watched a few videos and stuff, I've decided to try the Ruth Stout method. But I'm going to kind of do a variation of that for a very specific reason. And I'm going to show you everything that I'm doing and explain why I'm doing it. And so, as I said, this is my first time trying this, so I would love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. Well, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let me explain to you why I have never done a no-till deep mulch garden before. Okay, so when you dig down the first few inches in my garden, the soil doesn't look all that bad. It's what I consider halfway decent soil. But here's what happens when you go just a little bit deeper. Okay, so once you get down below that 5-6 inches and you start digging down there, this is the kind of soil that I have. And it really starts turning into, you know, that clay, and there's not a lot of tilth to it, you know. It's just you know, hard for roots to get down into this when it's so hard. And so for the last several years I've been doing something to try to correct this. So let me explain. Okay, so let me start out by saying this because I don't want to unintentionally mislead somebody. You cannot make clay soil better by just tilling it. You will make it worse, okay? Now, what I have been doing over the last several years is I've been putting organic matter in different ways in my garden, and then I'll till it in, whether I'm doing sheet mulching or I'm just tilling it in the fall. However, but you cannot break clay soil up by tilling it and think that that's a permanent fix. It is not. And you take it one step further. I do not know any way of amending clay soil without using organic matter. You can use fertilizers and stuff to make the plants grow, but you're not going to change the composition of your soil. In my opinion, the only way of doing this is to add large amounts of organic matter. Now, the reason why I picked that soil that I showed you over there is where I'm going to do this Ruth Stout variation, is because I really haven't amended it a whole lot. That's kind of a newer part to my garden, and I've planted pumpkins there, so I did amend parts of it, but I really haven't spent a lot of time changing the soil. So that's really going to tell me how this, you know, I hate to say experiment, but how doing this, you know, no-till is going to work out, because I really believe, from what I've read and everything, that I'm going to have to do this for several years, you know, before I see any change in that soil. So let me show you what I'm getting ready to do. Now, if you have watched this video and you liked it and you found value in it, please consider subscribing. I really would appreciate it. And as always, it is free. Now, this part Ruth Stout never did, and I'm going to show you what I'm getting ready to do and why I'm doing it. So, if you watch my channel, you probably already had this figured out, but I am going to put some manure down before I add the hay. And this is some really good aged pig manure. And I don't think it matters what kind of manure you use, and I don't believe it matters whether it's aged, whether it's fresh, and I'll explain that here in a second. But what I'm using, this has probably been on the ground since early spring, late winter, and it is breaking down pretty good. And so I think it's going to work really good for this Ruth Stout method. Okay, so if you're wanting to try this, depending on when you're going to plant, you could probably go ahead and use very fresh manure. Here in West Central Indiana, it's October, and I'm not going to plant anything where I'm going to put this until probably April, probably May even. And so that's going to give even fresh manure plenty of time to break down. You know, pig manure, chicken manure, I don't want it anywhere near my plants unless it has been aged at least 5 to 6 months, maybe a little more for chicken manure. So I've got plenty of time for this to go ahead and break down. All right, so before I put this manure down, I want to show you the size of the bed that I'm going to use for this no-till and kind of the condition that it is in right now. So from these posts, you can see that one all the way back, down to here where I've got a little space in between these garden beds, so to speak. It's about right here. That's about 20 foot. And so it is about 15 foot wide. And you can see I didn't till it. I just mowed it down, and there's already, you know, weeds starting to come back up. And so that's what I'm looking at trying to amend with this no-till. All right, so actually for a 20 by 15 foot area, it took me 6 wheelbarrow loads of manure, but I did put it on kind of thick. Now, I don't know why Ruth Stout never used manure. Maybe she just didn't need it. Maybe her soil is better than my soil. I'm not here to argue with, you know, the wisdom of Ruth Stout. She was an awesome gardener. But this is where I think I can amend my clay soil. And if you have clay soil doing a no-till, this is going to help you. Okay? I can't till this in like I normally would, like I talked about at the start of the video. So I'm going to need some help. And so that help is going to come into the form of microbes, microorganisms, all that, and worms. Okay? So the worms are going to come up and they're going to eat this manure. Well, they're going to create tunnels, channels, whatever you want to call them. And as this manure breaks down, all them nutrients are going to hopefully get put down into that soil, down into that clay part that I was showing you, where, you know, when I plant, them roots can go down in there and it's soft and they get those nutrients. And so that is where I think I'm going to kind of help amend that clay soil. But there's more to it than that. When I put this hay on here, you know, that's going to break down. Hay kind of tends to break down quick anyway. So the part that is touching the manure and the microbes in the ground touching the manure, all that in 8 months, that should break down really well, and that's going to create nutrients for my plants. And so you can see that obviously that layer of manure is not even. You know, there's highs and lows in it. Well, that's another thing. When I put that hay on top, that's going to create air pockets, and you know, when I put it on there thick, it's going to keep the ground warm. It's going to keep it from freezing. There's going to be warm air there, so those worms and those microbes are going to work a lot more doing it this way. They're going to have a lot more warm time, so to speak, through the winter than like my traditional method, not traditional, but my method of tilling it in. You know, it's just going to create a warmer environment. So that's going to be a plus to using this manure. Well, how much hay am I going to use? How much am I going to put on top? Well, let me show you. All right, so to answer the question, how much hay am I going to use? A lot. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a wheelbarrow load and do exactly that across this whole area. Now, I am at an advantage when it comes to hay. Okay, so to be a little more definitive on how thick I'm going to put that hay down, I would like to have about 10 to 12 inches. Now, here's the advantage that I have. Okay, I've got 1, 2, 3 big bales of hay, and I've got that partial one over there. I can buy more because it comes right here from this field. I know the guy that bales it, he does not spray it. You know, so I know everything is organic. So I'm fortunate for that reason. Now, I did make a video, I think it was last January, about 2 big considerations if you're going to try, you know, a Ruth Stout or a Back to Eden gardening, about how much materials it takes. Even with all that, I could not do a deep mulch the whole area of my garden. So that is one big thing to consider if you're going to try, you know, to do this, a no-till deep mulch. Make sure you have enough material, because this hay, this 10 or 12 inches of hay, is what's going to be hopefully my weed barrier. So you really want to stop and think about that. Okay, so what I'm going to do over the next couple of days is I'm just going to keep adding more and more hay to this, and then I will probably, the next time I clean out my chicken coop, I'm going to put that on there, because there'll still be plenty of time for that chicken manure to break down. Now, as this goes through the winter, you know, it's going to compress, and hay, like I said, it does kind of break down fairly quickly. So I'm going to have to add more to this, you know, probably throughout the winter. But this isn't, you know, probably just a one-time experiment. From everything I've read, next spring I might not do as good, because it really, all these organic materials really haven't broke down as good as they could have. You know, the soil's not quite as amended as it could be. And so I think you're going to look at year 2 and 3 for something like this to see how good it works. And so I'm planning on doing it really for 3 years anyway, just to see. But, you know, it's kind of an exciting thing. And if somebody has a good idea on what to plant that first year, please share it in the comments. I've got my ideas. But other than that, you know, just let me know what you think. Well, that's the video, and you guys have a good evening. I'll talk to you later. See ya.